Hey guys, Tyler here. Star Trek Section 31 is the 14th film in the Star Trek franchise, and the first to be distributed directly on Paramount+. Helmed by frequent Star Trek Discovery director Olatunde Osusamni, the film is effectively a spin-off of Discovery set in the franchise's Lost era, the early 24th century. Section 31 follows former Emperor of the Terran Empire Philippa Georgiou, played by Michelle Yeoh, as she works with Section 31, a top-secret division of Starfleet intelligence tasked with protecting the United Federation of Planets. Originally conceived as a TV series but later redeveloped into a standalone movie, Section 31 garnered near-unanimous negative reception upon its release. But while I could sit here and walk you through every story beat and explain why I also disliked Section 31, in this video I'd like to examine what went wrong on a production level and why fans were primed to hate it before it even came out. And oh yeah, there will be spoilers. Let's get started. Before we dive in, a word from today's sponsor, Architects of Fate. Hey, are you looking to build an adventure with friends? Well, I just might have the place for you. Architects of Fate is a Twitch channel that specializes in tabletop RPGs, with an emphasis on interactive gameplay and storytelling, all for free. Just by jumping into chat, you can make the lives of the Game Master and players easier or harder. It's up to you. Not only do Architects of Fate play well-known RPGs like 5th edition D&D, but they also play less common RPGs like Star Trek, Star Wars, Conan, Aliens, and more, plus totally original games like Solar Patrol, and Bad Horse's Evil League of Evil with the two-headed DM. Architects of Fate even has community game nights with chat. They're always looking for new games to share with each other and invite you to play alongside them. The goal of each stream is to make sure every viewer and player gets their chance to contribute and shine. If you like Star Trek, check out Bajor Rising on Mondays, featuring an ad hoc team of junior officers on the Galaxy-class USS Odyssey. Players embark on official and classified missions in support of Bajoran independence during the Cardassian occupation. They discover the prophets may not be mythical, and another, greater enemy may have plans for the sector. Join in to help weave tales of covert operations, moral dilemmas, and the struggle for freedom. Thanks to viewer requests, Architects also has a new adventure story on alternating Mondays called Back in Business, featuring Ferengi traders making their way in a post-Dominion War galaxy under the edicts of Nagus Rom.
Grand Nagus.
There's also Cookie Trek, streaming every Friday. Hosts and chat collaborate as a writer's room to craft original, often hilarious Trek-inspired stories that draw from the entirety of Trek lore. This season explores the exploits of the newly christened Florida-class starbase, Starbase Tallahassee. Started in early 2019 by Chief Architect Nat Too Shabby, Architects of Fate continues his family's tradition of tabletop gaming and late-night storytelling by sharing the experience with everyone. So come watch and join a group of players to write new stories and forge new friendships. Architects of Fate can be watched live on Twitch or rewatched on YouTube at the links in the description below. Big thanks to Architects of Fate for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back to it. During production on Discovery Season 1, Yeoh pitched the idea for a Georgiou-centered spin-off series to executive producer Alex Kurtzman. Yeoh made the suggestion as she loved playing the character and, quote-unquote, wanted to be a role model for young Asian women. After Yeoh's performance in Discovery was praised, Discovery's writers added Black Ops elements to her storyline in the second season. After Kurtzman became Discovery's sole showrunner in 2018 and signed a 5-year deal with CBS to expand the Trek franchise, talks of a Section 31 spin-off intensified. Eventual writers of the Discovery Season 3 two-parter Terra Firma, Bo-Yeon Kim and Erica Lippolt, were attached as writers and showrunners. It was hoped the new series would begin filming in early 2020 and premiere a year or two later. But then there was a major historical event, TM, that disrupted those plans. COVID, it was the pandemic. While the writers were able to get significantly ahead with the scripts, Paramount had chosen to move forward with production of another Discovery spin-off, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. After being in a sort of development hell for nearly half a decade, production was finally set to start in late 2023, but was delayed again by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Shazad Latif, who played Ash Tyler in Discovery, expressed openness to reprising his role, but was ultimately not in the final film. By the time production actually began in January 2024, The series had been pared down to a mini-series and eventually an event film, described as a blend of Mission Impossible and Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeoh's award-winning performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once meant Kurtzman expected her schedule to get busier, another reason Section 31 was made into a single film. In addition to Yeoh, Section 31 has an eclectic cast list. Omari Hardwick plays a human agent named Alok, who was born in the 20th century and exiled from Earth following the eugenics wars. Sam Richardson plays a character called Quasi, a member of the cameloid species, first introduced in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. Robert Kaczynski plays Zeph, a human who wears a mechanical exoskeleton and makes it his entire personality. Casey Roll plays Lieutenant Rachel Garrett, featured captain of the USS Enterprise C, representing Starfleet in an oversight role on the mission. Sven Roygrock plays Fuzz, a member of the microscopic nanokin species, who pilots a lifelike machine called a conveyance in the form of a Vulcan. James Hiroyuki Liao also plays San, a former lover of Georgiou's who competed with her for the Terran throne. Humberly Gonzalez plays a Deltan named Mel who, unlike most Deltans in Starfleet who take an oath of celibacy, uses her irresistible charm to Section 31's advantage. And Joe Pingue plays the primary antagonist, Data No, an arms dealer from the Mirror Universe. Jamie Lee Curtis also makes a cameo at the end as the new Control, a cybernetically augmented human, having replaced the original Control artificial intelligence program featured in Discovery Season 2. Broadly speaking, the film sees Section 31's Alpha Team, under Alok's command, track down a bioweapon designed under Georgiou's orders when she was Emperor. This weapon, called the Godsend, has the ability to devastate an entire quadrant. While No wants to sell the Godsend and live off the proceeds, San wants it to throw the Federation into chaos and lead a Terran invasion of the Prime Universe, where they would establish a new empire as a consequence of resource exhaustion. The film's placement in the timeline is particularly interesting. Being in the early 24th century, this is decades after the signing of the Khitomer Accords, ending the Federation-Klingon Cold War, and decades before the events of The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, when Starfleet encounters existential threats like the Borg and Dominion. And the film also places a further constraint on when the Terran Empire fell to the Klingon-Cardassian alliance in the wake of Emperor Spock's reforms, which ultimately failed. Section 31's story is not really anything special. It's pretty generic and something that was clearly intended for what would have been the Section 31 series. And I think setting it in the Lost era was an interesting creative choice, along with some of the other aliens featured in the film. But what is more unforgivable is so many other filmmaking decisions that were made.
Unforgivable.
Kicking off the list of annoyances, the film features a mirror motif in the opening credits, with the Paramount and Star Trek logos backwards on screen. Get it? Part and parcel with Osusanmi's efforts to push everything to the extreme, Section 31 is filled to the brim with annoying zooms, freeze frames, unfitting music,
Blowing up my phone now, going up, you bow down.
and other, frankly bizarre choices. The Alpha Team introduction sequence plays almost like the first Suicide Squad, which is kind of ironic as Section 31 seems like it tries to capture the vibe of James Gunn's films like Guardians, even though Gunn directed the second Suicide Squad, but you know what I mean. Not that I expected it would turn out any other way, but I kind of was hoping that this was going to be like a Star Trek Beyond situation where the poor marketing betrayed how good the film actually was.
Not this time.
Section 31's pacing is incredibly jarring, and while again this is partially a consequence of the story being crammed into a 95-minute runtime instead of a series format where it would have more of a chance to breathe, the film's dialogue doesn't do it justice either. The humor in Section 31 is beyond forced, and probably the only things that got me to chuckle were a few moments involving Garrett, and Quasi as well. This may be a hot take, but the way that Garrett's portrayed in this film is the least of the problems I had, as she at least represents the film paying lip service to someone criticizing Section 31's tactics. If that were absent, it would be even worse. But perhaps Section 31's biggest crime is how it fails to not only redeem the organization, but Georgiou herself. Many fans and I have consistently had a problem with how Georgiou is portrayed in Star Trek, which is more sympathetic than it should be, at least on paper. Let me explain. Countless times throughout not only Section 31, but Discovery 2, we're reminded that Georgiou is a mass murderer. She's colloquially referred to in some fan circles as Space Hitler, because she is barbarous even for a Terran. What Discovery contributed to the lore regarding Terrans is honestly one of my biggest issues with that show as well, which is implying that there are actual biological differences with Prime Universe humans that make them more naturally aggressive. This is already somewhat problematic in the context of referring to other alien races in science fiction, since aliens are often stand-ins for foreign human cultures in Western media. But for Terrans specifically, it's low-key racist garbage that serves as yet another example of how Star Trek's writers don't know how evolution works or how to write about biology in general. While I can only imagine terrible acts were probably committed in, for example, Mir Hoshisato's name, Georgiou is one of the most genocidal characters in the entire franchise. And yet, Section 31 baits us to sympathize with her, even though the film opens with her killing her entire family after she ascends to the throne. By the way, as others have pointed out, this whole ritualistic fight to the death for the throne definitely gives ripping off Hunger Games. While it's presented as necessary for emperors-to-be to cut ties with their old life, it doesn't particularly excuse, number one, the morality of that action alone, nor, number two, the greater atrocities Georgiou goes on to commit as emperor. Terrans in Star Trek aren't just a dark reflection of humanity under fascism, they are cartoonishly evil animals. Part of the purpose of Georgiou's arc in Discovery is her learning more lessons about compassion while in the Prime Universe. And I do think it's legitimate to tell a story about trying to rehabilitate somebody who their whole life has grown up in such a murderous environment as the Terran Empire. But the degree to which the Discovery crew develops an affection for Georgiou always rubbed me the wrong way.
She pretty much redefined the word badass.
Oh, and can I just add that she had the best walk with that coat and those boots.
And nothing intimidated her.
And Georgiou doesn't really grow out of her conniving persona in Section 31. I have a running game I play with Star Trek characters called Don't Hug the War Criminal, and they consistently fail it. Between this and the film's failure to provide a compelling reason why we should sympathize with Section 31 itself, the timing of all of this is very unfortunate given our real world's continued descent into authoritarianism. At the end of the movie, the characters all uncomfortably joke about how Georgiou still can't be trusted, and it's like, yeah, somebody should really do something about that.
We're all trying to find the guy who did this.
I may slaughter you all at any moment. Is that a deal breaker?
Whatevs.
It's not like you need a reason anyway.
It's true. You're a bad bitch.
More to the point of Section 31 as an organization, its mere existence has always bothered a section of the Star Trek fandom. When it was introduced in Deep Space Nine, Section 31 was presented as a fully rogue organization that proclaimed to have the Federation's best interests in mind, but was not part of Starfleet. Its existence was denied at the highest levels, and we never really knew what Section 31 agent Luther Sloan's basest motives were. While I thought Section 31's involvement in Enterprise was interesting, I'll admit this is where things kind of started to go wrong, with the show explicitly confirming it is sanctioned by the original Starfleet Charter. There Enterprise goes again with those George W. Bush-isms. Then Discovery depicts it as a more visible organization, although to be fair, not even all of the Starfleet characters are familiar with its inner workings. While Kurtzman has said that the writers would have explored how Section 31 became a more underground organization over the course of a series, explaining why Discovery and DS9's portrayals are inconsistent, these plans obviously have not had a chance to come to fruition. But that doesn't mean there still isn't room to criticize how Section 31 is portrayed, period. Rogue or not, sanctioned or not, Section 31 implies something very dark about the Star Trek universe. And I don't like it. Section 31 is very clearly based on the CIA, and I don't know if y'all were aware of this, but the CIA has been involved in some pretty nasty stuff throughout history. Toppling governments, engaging in torture, wiretapping, spreading propaganda, human rights violations, drug trafficking, you name it. Now, there's nothing wrong with depicting an analog to such an organization in sci-fi media, even an optimistic setting like Star Trek. But how you do it is important. Julian Bashir found their operations and tactics abhorrent during the course of the Dominion War, and this of course included developing a virus to commit genocide against the founders. Many have argued that this war crime did nothing to change the military situation, similarly to discussions over the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But since its introduction, Section 31 has seeped into more and more corners of Star Trek. There's a sense among lots of characters that Section 31's existence is necessary to protect the Federation, reflecting attitudes that the US government's illegal and invasive actions against foreign governments and its own people is also necessary to protect against threats like terrorism. I do think it's natural there would be a tendency for an organization like Section 31 to develop in Star Trek's world, given how averse to military action the Federation usually is. But regardless of debates about Section 31, the agency's place in the universe, Section 31, the movie, feels like a psyop with all the quirky characters doing CIA activities and the neoliberal girl boss vibes of the marketing.
Okay, ladies, now let's get information.
All of this at a time when media arguably needs to be more critical of our institutions than ever before, something a show like Lower Decks succeeds better at, despite it also having a Section 31 storyline, but it's not as prominent. A character like Georgiou being involved in an organization tasked with protecting the Federation is, in a word, concerning. If the Federation needs Section 31 to do the dirty work, then what is the point of Star Trek's utopia? It implies that humans are physically incapable of outgrowing some of our darkest impulses, that an egalitarian society can only exist if it's built on the legwork of a corrupt paramilitary organization. And while that may be more realistic, it is at odds with Gene Roddenberry's vision. While I don't necessarily think that that is a good or a bad thing in and of itself, it does feel like a betrayal of the idea that humans can build a better society and defend it on its own merits. While one could say the Federation may bring some threats upon itself by being kind of a soft, expansionist human empire, it already has an intelligence division. It doesn't need another one that operates extra-legally, because it undercuts everything the Federation says about its values. In turn, that undermines what's so attractive about Star Trek as a setting in the first place. We need dystopian sci-fi, but we also need inspirational sci-fi. This ain't it. So yeah, I know that a lot of these are not novel observations, but I'm not a big fan of the ongoing normalization of Section 31 in Star Trek, and this film does nothing to change that. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you won't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, you can become a patron at patreon.com/OrangeRiver, link in the description, or become a YouTube member by clicking the join button on my channel page. By becoming a patron or member, you also get access to awesome perks like behind-the-scenes photos and videos, patron and member-only polls, name in the credits, merch discounts, and more. Or you can drop a one-time super thanks or PayPal donation. All are appreciated. Links to my PayPal, as well as my social media and merch store, are in the description too. Also, just as a reminder, I do have a second channel, OrangeRiver Plus, where I've uploaded the VODs of lots of my gaming streams, with more on the way. And in addition to some other goofy one-offs and extra behind-the-scenes content, I've officially made it my second streaming platform, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. And once again, big thanks to Architects of Fate for sponsoring this video. That's all I have for this week. Live long and prosper.
Erica!
Oh my god!
Erica! Can you hear me?
Dr. Azukaza? I saw you die!
I've emerged from the depths of reptilian hell to deliver a very important message!
I spoke at your funeral!
Erica! listen very carefully. Issue 2 of Star Trek Endurance is now available for patrons and members of Orange River.
This has got to be a nightmare.
Just sign up for $2 or more at patreon.com/OrangeRiver or click the join button on Orange River's YouTube channel page. It's that simple. Even you could do it.
Wake up, Erica. Wake up!
You must inform the people, Erica. It's your duty. Erica!
Do you like merchandise? If so, head on over to the new and improved Orange River merch store. That's right, Orange River is now officially on Spreadshop. I've got a bunch of awesome new designs, including All the Way Down,
All the way.
Vape God, Tally, aka Best Girl,
It was totally worth it.
and what is perhaps my greatest design yet,
I love being married to my husband.
Plus, I've got some of my classic designs like Orange River Arrowhead, N7, Metroid, Mycelial Network,
The mycelial network is like
Mycelial Network, and more. And there are even some new products like Orange River hats. That's right, Orange River hats now exist. Visit the link in the description to get discounts and other special deals on items from my store.
You're a bad bitch.